I've always had an admiration for stories that balance two seemingly opposite identities together. When the story appears to seemingly be about one obvious thing, yet feels like it's about something else entirely. I wasn't really a Toonami kid, despite my interests. The only exposure I had to it was when Adult Swim began, and I would see promos of cartoons that seemed a bit more intense. Unlike most of you, I got scared, turned it off, and I went to bed. Eventually my family moved, I lost access to Australian cable and of course Cartoon Network, cried, went on with my life. So my exposure to series like Trigun, Inuyasha, or Cowboy Bebop remained unearthed for years. But I have been doing my part to catch up. You hear about a series and then eventually watch it. One that I would hear a lot of when I would watch art that turned out to be inspired by it was Fooly Cooly. But unlike Bebop or Trigun, I never knew what Fooly Cooly was even about because its imagery felt so contradictory every time I saw it. At first, this powerful image of a robot with angelic wings I saw on a Captain Christian video, and then this Matrix-style camera swing into a woman giving CPR to a kid she just ran over with a Vespa. There was no way to discern what this was about, and yet it seemed like it could be about anything. Well, after decades of life watching stuff that makes no sense and falling in love with it, I felt the obligation to finally owe this cult classic my attention. My consensus is, despite the giant alien robots, the inappropriate freak of a father, balls-to-the-walls action of grunge rock underpinning hype of anime action, I find a very beautiful, relatable pain amongst its characters that feels more real and human than the opposing force to our protagonists. So I offer this sentiment. Fooly Cooly makes no damn sense. But what does when you're a kid? What I think is special, timeless, and extremely charming about Fooly Cooly as a new watcher is how I can't tell what is either intentional in the series' creative decisions or a cheat to work around budget and time constraints. The episode Bullet Brittle features much more rough animation in both visual quality but also keyframes, a very small amount of smooth movement. It's amazing because it works for the kind of bombastic tone it embellishes in this episode later when they fight a gun-toting hand wearing a poncho. It's genius when animators can cheat their way out of using time and resources in one part of a project so that they can focus on making their climax as fooly and cooly as possible. But previous episodes offer varied tones in animation and style, particularly episode 2, when a scene is almost completely rotoscoped for one single section of it, for what seems to be no reason besides that they could do it or it worked for the budget. The beauty of both these examples is that it is consistent in the ridiculousness of the world the narrative takes place in, but doesn't mean it can lack visually powerful imagery, like when Kanti prays on top of the burned down school, or when Naota proclaims who he is to Mamimi. It's fluid then rough, it's slick and then choppy. It's animation doing everything it can and wants to, something I'm sure would have been so creatively refreshing as this was post-Evangelion for the legendary studio Gainax. Which is ironic, because I thought to myself at one point watching episode 5 that this is Evangelion coming-of-age story, but make it happy, fun with some grunge rock, and some healthier relationships with women. Instead of Asuka claiming pathetic, we have Haruko glove-punching and weapon head-shaming men. Much healthier, and who doesn't love psychotic girl boss in a bunny outfit? The relationships that Naota has specifically with Haruko and Mamimi are one of the strongest aspects of the show, as one is someone searching for something with purpose, and the other is lost looking for someone to fill an empty void that has been left behind. Something Naota also feels. But what is cool is how two characters must understand what they need versus what they want. Mamimi is a character that I felt I never fully grasped her development until the very end, when she takes a photo of Naota and leaves their hometown to pursue photography, indicating how through leaving the town she has always known she can move on from the constant need for love and attention that was lost after the departure of Naota's older brother. A perspective I felt I longed for after graduating, where I truly believed that I needed to see the world that existed outside of a similarly small and uninteresting town. Instead of a giant iron placed in the city to metaphorically represent the loss of thought and individuality by making one smooth-brained, we had a guy walk around dressed as a gorilla and the annual Aussie school stab-off. The show represents Mabase as this kind of town that could be based on another planet entirely. Even series creator Kazuyo Tsurumaki entertains the idea that the town is actually on Mars. The distinction of being so far separated and removed from the rest of the world to a young kid is relatable in the pain of being left behind. That pain is something unspoken almost in Fooly Cooly. Characters feel like the actions of other adults almost trump their entire expectations of what life was going to be like. Naota's classmate Eri is shown to have parents that may get divorced and have one father go to jail. But what anguish of this situation is never shown but assumed by everyone around her, despite her proclamation that it's no bother. Yet there is a sadness to this. The fact that it's unspoken, and even if it does affect her, there is nothing that she can do as a kid. The actions of the adults, whether goofy, annoying, or irrational to a kid, are going to happen regardless because they have the freedom to make bold, large life choices or ones that at least affect theirs and others. Naota's dad makes the decision of taking Haruko in as a housekeeper after being run over by her as well. It actually is something that affects Naota more than he. And even when he asks Naota if it's okay to let Haruko stay here, his son replies that he can just do what he wants. His acceptance that adults make choices for the kids and that they can't do anything, as much as they would like to make the choices themselves. Especially when your dad is a bit quirked up for Gundam and has a bit of a crush on your housekeeper. Speaking of which, the amount of references that Fooly Cooly makes as it waxes poetically about any number of oddities surrounding it is genuinely insane. Glad as I was that I went through 28 years of life not seeing a single reference besides the one about Lupin, only to be metaphorically whacked across the face as I saw this impressionistic and surreal anime suddenly turn into the cutout characters of the Colorado town that I watched on repeat at too young an age. What is bewildering to me as someone who's become so unbelievably annoyed and jaded by references and callbacks toward other media, like everyone's trying to be Fortnite having Goku and Pickle Rick high five, is that the series never truly tries to look at the audience and say, hey, see what we did there, while waiting for someone to hand them some flowers. Hearing Naota's dad go crazy on how many people may prefer Green Jacket Lupin and Cagliostro as opposed to Red Jacket, and even calling out series creator Monkey Punch, just made me laugh because the context is minimal. The entire intro of the Brittle Bullet episode is quite literally a Lupin sketch. The fight at the end is a Daikon skit, but in my personal opinion, way more fucking sick, and with as much ridiculousness needed for us to really forget that this episode started parroting Lupin, switched to South Park, and now are channeling Gurren Lagann before its creators of the same studio even made it. I think part of what this does narratively is it enforces the stuff that makes no lick of sense, but it also shows what adults know. That they too were kids who enjoyed and loved things that to a kid nowadays isn't understandable or knowable yet, but at the same time, it evokes what it is to be a kid. All the adults of the series act like children and in fact do not in any way really have a sense of maturity about them. Naota always seems to be annoyed and infuriated by the absurdity of all the adults around him. But I think that annoyance comes before the realization that adults are just kids grown with more responsibility. Even if we must act our age, there is no stopping the ridiculousness and stupidity that dwells within us, that we like to embellish. It's just not possible, probable, or conceivable, and yet I know, like French New Wave style sexuality, huh? Like Lupin jumping out of a suit at Fujiko, huh? Guts berserk on the outside, secret you're under arrest on the inside. Ooh, Natsumi! Fooly Cooly! Fooly Cooly! Fooly Cooly! Wait, what the fuck is... There are two ways one could play this. I dissect the phrase by trying to translate into what the phrase means by Japanese standards. That can be tricky. And receive an essay in the comments from some guy who was taught himself Japanese through only anime. Or just give you my take that will then be challenged regardless. So let's go with two. The term Fooly Cooly is first said when Naota goes to get his bump looked at and is told he has flicktonic clipple waiver syndrome, where kids get horns from trying too hard. This of course turns out to be some BS from Haruko in a nurse outfit serving some Silent Hill vibes, but it does tend to be somewhat of another indicator that Naota is a kid trying to grow up too fast. Throughout much of the series, he rarely cares for nonsense from anyone, pretty much always annoyed that everyone is not acting mature for their age. The term is never really answered as to its specific meaning, even in the finale when Naota's father expresses that the main character should have deciphered that meaning by now. We have to, or else the audience is going to get really annoyed. I personally don't think there needs to be some meaning to what Fooly Cooly is more than anything just to describe something as Fooly Cooly. The series is it, its ups and downs of growing up, the calm, reflective melancholy moments of boredom, or the ridiculous days that are slotted in between each of them. I think what I find so provocative in its themes of growing up is how every character feels very lost when faced against others, and how we may change when major people in our lives leave. The catalyst for Naota's need to be mature seems to truly stem from the departure of his brother, who left for America and is unlikely to return. So what brings a kind of older dependent surrogate relationship to his life than the wild alien Haruko, not incestual. But unlike I imagine his brother was, Haruko has no interest in keeping Naota safe, instead pushing his brain and emotional capacity to its limits. This does in some ways result in major character development. In the episode Full Swing, Haruko gives, in my opinion, the best piece of life advice in the entire series. Naota is drafted into his grandpa's baseball team, and because his brother was a great baseball player and ended up going to America because of how good he was, Naota is put onto the team and is deemed useless because he never swings. Haruko on the enemy team chastises, kind of makes fun of him, but at one point walks away and says, "Nothing can happen until you swing the bat." It's ironic, because Naota walked around in the very first episode of the series carrying a baseball bat when he doesn't play it. At first, it may seem as some kind of nod or honor to his older brother, but it makes me think twice. He is a baseball player. He likes baseball, but he'll never swing, because that's not cool. He's not good at it, so why try? There's this perception when you're a kid, and I would even say some have as an adult, where trying hard or giving something a go isn't cool, especially when it can be embarrassing or make you feel stupid, or it feels like a waste of time because you're not getting any value or progress or money out of it. It's a mindset that can force someone to reject the things they like or care about in life. And for a kid, it is a miserable, uninteresting way to live. To me, it's foolish in every sense of the word. As mentioned earlier, Naota adheres to this way of thinking most of the time, but little by little, he starts to genuinely allow parts of himself to try new things that he may not like or finds childish. Fully Cooley is commonly referred to as a coming-of-age story, but it works as a reverse age story, when Naota grows up through his experiences by understanding that he is still not yet grown and shouldn't be in a hurry to do so. That the normalcy in his life is valuable, and the weird magic comes from the people in our lives, ones who have always been there, or even those that only stay for a small amount of time. Haruko is special in being this outside driving force that initiates the forthcoming conflict and change in our character's life, kicking off a series of days that fundamentally change Naota's perspective on himself and those around him. What is challenging about a character like Haruko to create is she must both be an outsider and an insider of the plot. She creates tension and is also someone to help alleviate it. She can provide insight while also remaining a mystery as to not just who she is, but also what she has been through in her life. Signified through her style and unconventional mix of vehicle and weapon, you are never sure if Haruko is telling you a lie or some very true meaningful piece of advice for comfort. This is manipulative, as she has an agenda to what she wishes to attain, but also through what she shares and how she reacts when Naota shares his feelings. She no doubt has lived a life full of so many shocks, twists, and disappointments. So when she says to Naota, "Nothing can happen until you swing the bat," the line implies who she is to have this opinion and what things have happened in her life to come to this vital piece of truth that she lives up to. Echoes how strangers can have an impact on us not just as adults, but in the formative parts of our lives, and then never see them again, or the people we love. For one reason or another, they sometimes leave. I think it's very compelling that after Haruko departs, Naota's life returns to the mundane again, despite his constant admissions it always was. Yet he has accepted his position in his still very early life, that he cannot chase after everyone he misses or leave this town until he is ready to chase something for himself. Something Haruko does despite having felt something after spending time in Mabase. So he remains, because he's still a kid. It's funny that the statement of nothing interesting ever happening in his town ends the series, because to me, it's not a defeat, but perhaps an acceptance, or even better, a declaration that the abnormal is now normal. Everything is weird. Everything is lame and different. Everything is fully coolly. My love for animation and the work that has been spawned from its magic is something I am glad I have not seen the end of as I continue to watch these pieces of art that have been around for a long time. I just have never had the opportunity or luck to see them at an impressionable age. But seeing Fully Coolly and still being surprised at how universal a small 6-episode show about a bass-wielding Vespa-driving alien can be so relatable as you watch it at Naota's age, Haruko's, or older. There are many coming-of-age stories that I think say what Fully Coolly also says, and they do so in a way that is powerful and true, but I've never seen a story that says it like Fully Coolly does. Part of why Haruko's back comment places such a weight in my mind is because I am getting older, and the chance to try new things can feel less frequent. So it's been nice to remind myself, especially in this past year where I've made large changes, finally making that choice to go to the gym every day, or finally sign that paper, which both comes with a home, but also a huge amount of responsibility. Lessons of youth often become reminders that you already know, but sometimes you forget. That's why they become reminders. If coming-of-age stories of when you're at that pivotal crossroads of youth, then Fully Coolly is a massive analogy and reminder for you. To never lose that part of childhood many people do, the willingness to try things, to be selfish, stupid, or act like a fool, even if you fail at trying something. Because you will. You'll fall, you'll scrape your knee, you're gonna eat bad ramen. But no matter how you slice it, nothing can happen until you swing the bat. Have a good one. Hey everyone, thank you so much for watching and making it to the end of the video. First off, I want to say a massive thank you to all of my patrons who support videos like these. Below in the description is a Discord you can join, but also the Patreon where you can support videos like these for $2 Australian. If you enjoyed the video, feel free to give it a like and subscribe so it lets YouTube know you like my videos, or by watching another one of these videos here. I didn't have time to fit it in here cohesively or naturally, but I've become a big fan of the pillars from watching Fully Coolly, and the soundtrack of Fully Coolly is really what sets its tone and style. And only recently when I began making this video did I learn of the passing of Shinichiro Sato, the drummer, who passed away on March 23rd, 2026. And I want to say a big thank you to him, wherever he is now, and to the band for making such an amazing piece of not only music for this anime, but music in general. Blues Drive Monster is my favorite song, I Think I Can is second, and third is Crazy Sunshine. Masterpiece bangers amongst great songs, and I'm keen to listen to some that aren't in the show. I'd encourage you to either go listen to them for the first time, or if you most likely have already seen Fully Coolly from when you were younger, please go watch it again and listen to their music. Thank you again. But that's all from me. My name is Mugen. As always, have a good one.